Thank you so much for coming. And Heritage Auction, I'm so impressed with the caliber of the auction house, and I feel very privileged to be a part of this tonight. So tonight, I have the cover of one of my dear friends, Dick Hughes' book on the Collector's Guide to Ruby and Sapphire. And the reason it's up is the Tao of Jewelry Design, of which I'll speak tonight, is also published in his book. And I highly recommend the book if you're eager to learn how to collect and acquire brilliant sapphire and ruby. He is one of the world's leading experts. So, I want to start with a quote from a 21st century fabulous art collector. He is the most avid and brilliant collector of our 21st century, David Khalili. The greatest and one of the strongest bridges between cultures is one that is built of art. Religion and politics have their own dialects. The language of art is universal. And I believe that's why we're here tonight. We have this link, this love of beauty, this love of jewelry, this love of art and history. So what's the difference between accumulating and collecting? Certainly there's nothing wrong with us buying something that we just fall in love with and we just like. But conscious collecting demands a greater degree of involvement. Collecting is not just about price and attraction, but learning about the artist, learning about the materials that they use, learning about the time in which they produce their art. The payoff is the richness of enjoyment, and it extends deeply into the subject matter. In many respects, it's the difference between superficial enjoyment and substantial engagement. While collecting jewelry opens both social and natural history to us, concentrating on contemporary jewelry extends the role for you, the collector, beyond being a voyeur, but yet an active participant. You literally become the curator and the editor of fine art and contemporary art, and you are influencing the here and now when you are acquiring it. There was a time when jewelry was one of the finest of the fine arts. And I would like to have you witness a quote from Michelangelo in a letter that he sent to his friend complaining about trouble he was having with the Sistine Chapel. And he declared, "I'm a jeweler, I'm not a painter." He was so frustrated. Like Michelangelo, I was formerly trained in the fine arts. My Master's of Arts is in painting and printmaking. And I declare, I'm a painter, I'm not a jeweler. And yet here I am standing before you presenting my jewelry. But early in my career, my focus was solely on painting and sculpture, and I loved color. Color was my dream. To understand color, to work with it where it inspired anyone who saw my work. It was only later that I started to apply these arts, the fine art disciplines, to the medium of jewelry. I've made it my life's goal to reestablish jewelry as a fine art discipline. That is why I've resisted the call of mass production. I only do original works of art. I only make one of every piece that you will see here at the auction and on my slides. And this is what I call my painted jewelry, the poppy. It is so beautifully colored by the differing shades of the Mexican fire opal that compose the petals in micropave. You can see the sun kissing the outer edges of those petals, and it crescendos into a deep red, all of which come from the same mineral, Mexican opal. So the poppy's anatomy and everything is considered. This is one of a 70-piece collection that was in the Carnegie Museum of Natural History. I was invited to do a one-woman exhibition in 2013. And my painted jewels were a big part of the Garden of Light. I also think it's important to our culture to use ancient labor-intensive techniques like you see on the Nefertiti ring here. I have the art of granulation, engraving, and chasing. These are labor-intensive techniques that are found in all of my pieces in one form or another. Even other aspects of piercing and other types of ancient labor techniques are my passion to keep this art alive and well in the 21st century and hopefully beyond, because these were what the great masters have taught me, and I need to pay my respects. So that said, what is the A for art in jewelry collecting? Because I'm trying to help you have a collector's guide before you leave here. Here's a beautiful pendant that we have on display so you can see the difference between a digital image and the beautiful tangible light that you find in a piece of jewelry. Each of my pieces tell a story, and they must have a perfect form, a balance and proportion in the stones, and a complete harmony of color. At times, pieces should be exciting and dramatic, and other times, a jewelry piece will call for comfort and serenity. I think this is more dynamic, and the first slide of Rhythms and Blues is one of soothing comfort. So a well-known jewelry house or a haute couture jewelry house always has their pieces at a premium, but yet they will sustain a premium, and they're always signed. My pieces are all original works and always have the Crevoshay stamp and on every single piece. Now we're up to B for the bold and the balance of color in your collector's guide. In my opinion, fine jewelry should invite engagement and elicit a reaction. And yet, surprisingly, jewelry design is often not that. But in a Crevoshay, you will always find the bold, the colorful, and the brave. Here, can't you just imagine Van Gogh painting that center opal? And can't you just imagine that you could dive into that pool? It's a beautiful, beautiful piece, and it's called Indigo Dream because of the colors of blue. But one-of-a-kind pieces of jewelry exceed the sum of its parts. And this is very important. As with any art, jewelry can and should elicit this bold and expressive response. But I also want to point out on this slide, we have an abalone pearl, a natural pearl, forming the bulbous body of the Pink Lady slipper. And that's an actual variety of flower, the Pink Lady. And you have to understand the materials in order to know how much you want to bid, or if you want to bid at all. And it's very important to understand that when looking at jewelry. So I'm coming up to C for creativity, and I'm always asked, Paula, what's your inspiration? How do you come up with a plethora of designs, 5,000 or 10,000 and counting of original works since I started 30 years ago? And I always say, well, nature, of course. Nature's my inspiration. And here's another piece from the Garden of Light collection at the Carnegie, and it's called Eden. And versatility is important in my work as well. The central orchid made of kunzites and lavender sapphires and diamonds can literally be removed from the necklace, as can the spider. And all of these pieces can be worn together or separately. So you have versatility and creativity working together hand in hand, with science and art becoming one. So people also say, well, does the gemstone come first or does the design? With the Crevoshay, it always comes from the gemstone, and I work my way out. And I've often said, I do not do these designs, they literally come through me. So I find a center stone, I map it out on a piece of vellum, because I love to draw on vellum. All my designs are intricately drawn first, with side view, top view, underneath, textures, all of it is, but it comes flooding in at once. So they literally come through me. Now here is the Enchanted Evening. I've mentioned that knowing the materials are important. These are two of the most rare materials on earth. Hyonite, which is the cobalt-colored accent stones mined in Germany, and a suite of black opal, the Queen of Opal, found only in Lightning Ridge, Australia. Both of these stones in the same piece is something that we're going to talk a little bit more about, but it's called a gemological clue. I'm letting the students that follow me after I'm long gone that to know your gemology. These soft stones have to be handled with the utmost care. There's versatility in all of my pieces. My late father, Dr. William B. Seagraves, was a great, great scientist. He created so many patents for the chemical engineering side of the world, but he did so with mechanical patents. He was a wizard. And so I inherited a little bit of that DNA in terms of my jewelry, because I use engineering all the time. So D is for the details, the labors of love. Every substantial piece of jewelry should be a labor of love, and you should be able to see it upon sight, and especially when you hold it and you look at the front and the back. So please witness the Seahorse that I just finished. Which is more beautiful, the front or the back? The front of the jewel is the white knight, but it pivots and swivels on its crown, and you can wear it either way. The back of it is holding that opal in place and preserving its beautiful, soft, fragile quality so that nothing will ever damage it. And it's blackened 18-karat gold with swirls of lavender sapphires. River Goddess, which was also in the Carnegie collection. Which is more beautiful? The front with the carved chrysocolla and the diamond water droplets falling from her. But look at her armature. It's engraved, it's pierced, it's got all these ancient techniques. And I've even said people who viewed it, I would wear it backwards. And that made me very, very happy. So we have to pay attention to the details when looking at a piece of jewelry. And every piece should be well made and should exude quality. And quality you can see with your naked eye. You can also feel it. You can observe that it's something like you've never seen in this world when it's original. This is the lotus bracelet. One of the questions that you need to pay attention to or ask and know about is how sustainable is the wearability of a piece of jewelry that you're investing in? Do the findings, we call them, which are the clasps and the tongues and the pin stems, do they work? Do they wear well? Will they last through the lifetime? Will I not lose this piece of jewelry because they're very well built? Then we come into the emotion and the excellence and the quality. Jewelry should emote a reaction. It should be something that makes you go, ah, like when you see a rainbow arc across the sky. Because remember, these are the noble treasures of our earth that create jewelry. The sun, the moon, and the stars ring. This makes me swoon. In the center is a faceted, agilurescent, it's a faceted organ opal with beautiful sparkling gems around it. The beloved is using the natural crystal form of the tourmaline, and it's combined in such a beautiful way so that you don't have an overwhelming amount of rubellite color. You actually have that large green savorite in the oval in the center to bring your attention to the lovely growth patterns, but not overwhelm. Remember, we talked about the balance, the proportion of gems and stones. And the wearability, here we have my Aphrodite bracelet. These bracelets, you can open any cuff I have. I don't think I have one displayed there to show you tonight, but they're hinged, and they're made by a solid, very deep piece of solid 18-karat gold that you can fold open, put it on, and close it shut. F is for the fine arts of all things. In my jewelry, I express my deep love of painting, of nature, and of beauty. This is Le Fleur de Rêve. This beautiful jewel took me over 1.5 years to make. It came onto the public's knowledge as of February 2014. The first day it launched in the American Gem Traders Show in Tucson, and 3 people wanted this flower, and there's only one. And so naturally the first person to write the check, got the piece. But why do I talk about that? All of my pieces are one of a kind. They're no two alike. And so if you fall in love with something and you have the means in which to get it, you shouldn't really sleep, because once it's gone, there will be no other. Jingu is a gem carver. I wanted to speak a little bit about my work with the North American gem carvers of my generation who are geniuses. They have won awards, they have patents, they're internationally acclaimed. The gentleman that carved this beautiful dendritic agate and turned it into an empress robe of the fall season, Empress Jingu literally conquered the Koreans that were trying to invade Japan in her reign. She's revered. But look at the diaphanous robe, and that's an animate object that looks as if it's moving. So that's the work of Glenn Layer. I work with him quite a bit. Again, just showing you piercing work. We talked about ancient metal techniques. That has to be sawed out of a sheet of gold. And it also has two different patinas. It's engraved where the leaves are in that vine motif. And then we've sandblasted the shiny metal. Here's one of my poppy rings where you can see the fine art of the jewel. Like the poppy brooch that you viewed, this ring took me 6 to 9 months to build. It's put together in 4 layers, and a handmade screw closes it all together with a handmade 18-karat washer as well. But look at the beauty, look at the glory, look at the uniqueness of the jewel. It's also important to know when an artist does a collection. And I do only one of a kinds, but I have themes. This was a piece from the Chinoise Collection that I launched 3 years ago because I took a trip to Beijing for the first time in my life. And I literally dreamed of this collection of pieces. And all of my earrings are detachable and wearable, but if you have one of the chinoiserie pieces, there will only be a certain number that will be available, and no two will be alike. But to know that, to get to study and get your information. Now this is like a world-class opal. So I always like to point out that in a designer piece and a one-of-a-kind and something that is a labor of love, the sum of its parts will exceed the cost of its parts, always. But to note that that is such a world-class opal, and to understand that, I always say it looks like Monet paid in every opal I pick up because of the impressionistic feeling when you gaze at it. But instead of just putting a simple halo of diamonds around it, I've chosen to pick up the beautiful light within the gems with other gems that mirror the colors to help bring you in. And you'll notice on the bottom and the sides that it's intricately pierced in that technique, and that even what we call the shank of a ring, which is the side, has the beautiful swirls of stones. And I want to, here's another chinoiserie piece that I wanted to talk about a little bit, because if you go to collect a chinoiserie piece, I did pendants and rings and earrings, but I'm showing earrings tonight. Look at that top piece. Every one of my earrings, you can detach your drop, and you can add other drops. Think about how many infinite possibilities there are with a universal top like that. You can also buy my tops and drops separately. Here's another collection that I launched 30 years later from when I first launched it. It's called the Serena Collection. I'm paying homage and respect to the greatest artist that I know in America working in the ancient art of intarsia, which is an inlay process. These stones are soft and so easy to break, and yet he's slicing them thin and putting them together like a puzzle for us. And they're gorgeous. And he signs every single piece he does. So that is a matched pair of earrings, but each earrings will have his signature that he takes an engraver and literally carves it into the gem. He's brilliant. And so there's more of these coming out. I've done a collection. There's one here, and I would really welcome you to let me show you the beauty of this inlay work. He is a genius. His name is Nikolai Medvedev, and we're very dear friends, and we're working on some big projects right now. And it's 30 years later. That makes me happy that we've made it that long. And so G is for like, oh my God, is that gorgeous? But it's also for the gemological clues that are in my work. A jeweler is always working with the light. These gemstones are tangible light. They have a light source within their crystalline structure. And what I've done here is I've combined highly dispersive gems together. The centerpiece is a sphalerite. And within the sphalerite family group, it's a soft gem, it's a rare gem, but it has color blasting out to the human eye like nothing you've ever seen. Diamonds also do it, but sphalerite does it in a very amazing way. And I put some other highly dispersive gems, cognac diamond, and then oh my goodness, I'm forgetting my gem, and I know it. Martin, what's my gem? The green gem, why can't I think of it? Demantoid garnet, thank you, Martin. The demantoid garnet is one of the rarest on Earth. It was first found still in rarity in the Urals of Russia. And it is, when you see a highly dispersive demantoid, you will never, ever think you want any other green stone but that stone. It is miraculously beautiful. And Spring Eternal, this is one of the Garden of Light jewels. The center pearl is called a spike pearl. It's a natural pearl. And being the painter that I am, I've taken yellow sapphires and lavender sapphires with bitronite moonstones that have the same blush of colors and hues that are found in the orient of the pearl. That pearl has lavenders and golds. And just look at this stone for a minute. Many of the women that I got to speak to before I got up here asked about the Mexican fire opal. And this beautiful gem is of great quality, great size, beautiful cutting. But look what happens when dragons are carved in gold on either side of that stone, holding that stone. It takes a piece of stone and a piece of gold, and then you have art. And my goal has always been to bring the fine art disciplines to the art of jewelry. And my role as a designer and a creator is to widen the path for my next generation. And I hope that I uplift and inspire them to carry on where I will have to leave off when it's my time to go. So I thank you, and I invite you for either comments or questions, and I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you about my passion. Thank you.